fractured. Just sit with that word for a second. We hear a lot of terms thrown around to describe the modern economic landscape, but honestly, very few carry the structural finality of this one. It doesn't just mean something stopped working, right? It implies a sharp, deep break in a foundation that was supposed to be load-bearing.
Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a truly microscopic look at the phrase, the fractured promise of middle-class ambition, along with its counterpart, middle-class dreams versus reality. By breaking these concepts down piece by piece, we're going to uncover the hidden architecture and, well, the ultimate failure of modern societal expectations.
Section 1. The middle-class promise, the foundation of expectation.
Let's start by isolating these three words, middle-class ambition. Historically speaking, this hasn't just been some dry economic demographic, it's been a deeply ingrained cultural engine. The phrase itself just has so much weight to it. It carries this inherent, almost assumed, upward trajectory. It implies motion. It's the foundational belief that where you begin your life is absolutely not where you're destined to finish it. For generations, this specific type of ambition wasn't viewed as a gamble at all. It was literally the standard operating procedure for a successful life, where a steady paycheck meant you could eventually own a home and build a solid nest egg.
Let's move to and see how this builds. Notice how adding the promise of fundamentally shifts the phrase from a personal trait, your individual ambition, into a full-blown societal contract. A promise implies a guarantor. It suggests this deeply held unspoken agreement between you and the economy. And the agreement goes a little something like this. If you supply the ambition, the hard work, and the determination, well, society promises to supply the stability, the upward mobility, and the reward. It elevates the whole concept from a mere hope to an absolute guarantee.
Which brings us to Section 2. Ambition and dreams, the upward trajectory.
By definition, ambition is a strong desire to do or achieve something, typically requiring determination and hard work. And this brilliantly illustrates the hopeful ideal of middle-class mobility. It is a highly active word. It demands sweat equity. The source text leans heavily on this concept because, let's be real, the middle-class ideal was never supposed to be handed out for free. The promise was always conditional on the effort. You put in the determination, you put in the hard work, and the system rewards you. It's a beautifully simple, perfectly balanced equation.
Which leads us to the ultimate idealized destination of all that hard work, middle-class dreams. Notice the shift in terminology here. We've moved from the active grit of ambition to the ethereal, aspirational realm of dreams. This is the white picket fence. This is the fully funded college account for the kids, the secure retirement, the annual family road trip. The word dreams here doesn't mean something impossible, actually. It represents the ultimate idealized realization of the promise. It is the carrot at the end of the stick that makes all that grueling ambition totally worthwhile.
Moving on to Section 3. The fractured turn, when the contract breaks.
But then, reintroducing that single, heavy word, fractured, completely dismantles everything we've just built. It acts as an absolute wrecking ball to that beautiful, balanced equation of hard work equaling reward. The ambition? It's still there. The desire is definitely still there. But the mechanism that translates that ambition into the dream has suffered a catastrophic failure.
So what happens when a promise isn't just broken, but fractured? By definition, to be fractured means to be broken, cracked, or damaged in a way that impairs structure. A broken promise can sometimes be mended. A fracture, however, implies deep, lingering damage. It implies jagged edges that actually hurt to touch. In a socioeconomic sense, a fractured promise means the structural integrity of the middle class itself has been completely compromised. You can still have the ambition, sure, but if the bridge to the dream is fractured, all the hard work in the world won't safely get you across.
Let's summarize our journey so far. This maps out a really clear semantic arc, starting from the expectation of the societal contract and the promise of stability, moving to the drive of sheer individual ambition and sweat equity, and finally hitting the brake that disrupts the entire flow. This is the rise and fall arc hidden within just a few words of our source text.
And that brings us to Section 4, confronting the reality, the final equation.
So the crucial point is the stark philosophical friction between these two concepts, dreams versus reality. It's a total collision course. The dream is what we are told to expect. It's the marketing brochure of modern economics, basically. The reality, though, is the harsh, unforgiving light of day. When the promise is fractured, the dream doesn't just smoothly transition into reality. Instead, reality becomes the brick wall that the dream crashes right into.
And here is that inevitable sequential flow laid out plainly. Step 1, the dream is sold to us and internalized. Step 2, the fracture occurs, representing those massive structural economic shifts like stagnant wages and the skyrocketing costs of housing and education. Those are the specific mechanisms of the break. And finally, step 3, the reality sets in. This shows exactly how the idealized promise we started with ultimately collides with the final reality. It's not a failure of ambition, guys. It's a failure of the mechanism. The individual is still pushing upward, but the ceiling has been lowered and the floor has completely cracked.
Which leaves us with this final provocative thought. We've unpacked how a promise becomes a fracture and how a dream collides with reality. But what does this all mean for your individual drive? When the structural guarantee of the middle class is compromised, ambition has to adapt. It can no longer just be a blind faith in an old promise. So, look closely at your own socioeconomic journey and ask yourself, is your ambition still chasing a fractured dream, or is it grounded in the cold, hard, but ultimately navigable space of reality? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning the words and keep looking closely at the structure of the world around you.